Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us today. We broadcast 2 hours a day, 5 days a week from the Missouri from Missouri Ozarks for right now, but I don't think that's going to be too much longer. And if you'd like to call and you're on topic, I'd love to hear from you. If you're not on topic, I would not like to hear from you. The call-in number is 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is 605-477-3249. You can probably hear some seriousness in my voice, and you'll see why in just a couple seconds. We're trying to connect with Gwyneth Isaacs right now in Australia. We're having a little bit of difficulty. So in the meantime, I'm going to say something that I was going to say at the beginning of the broadcast anyway. So I want to say a sincere thank you to a very special group of people. The meetup group, the Expo guests for whom we bought their weekend passes to everything, including the extra fee Dr. Miller and Matt Stein events. All the public school principals and superintendents and teachers, of which nobody, not one of them, attended our expo. And a special thank you to all of our internet and email detractors. You've saved me a lot of time. I'm speaking to the people I just mentioned in this elite group. You've saved me a lot of time because we no longer have to do any expos. No longer have to spend months, like 9 months, preparing for an expo. I no longer have to prepare for meetups and waste time preparing for meetups and aligning guests and calendars. And I no longer have to do USA Prepares projects. You know, we had some really interesting projects, and I'll mention them in just a minute. And I no longer have to do the USAPrepares Village. I don't need to spend any more time on it. It's over. It's done. So, going back through a little bit of history, I expected all of the projects to be failures. All of them. I really did. And originally, there was a 640-acre parcel that I wanted to buy with the plans of using it for 2, 5, 10, and 20-acre parcels with common areas and building a village. It's in Missouri. We could have done it where individuals could buy per acre $1,200. Well, think about that. $2,400 roughly. You could have 2 acres in a magnificent village. This would be as nice as the nicest park you have ever seen. Water running through it, magnificent entry, only one way in, only one way out, surrounded by woods in the middle of nowhere. $1,200 an acre. Only a few people, I was on the radio for months talking about it. Only a few people expressed interest, actually remote interest. Nobody followed up. So that project fell apart because the land was cut over. All the trees, all these 100-plus-year-old trees were cut down, logged, and now it's nothing but stumps. 640 acres or 1 square mile of stumps. It's been destroyed. Then we had some really neat projects, about $20 projects. $20 projects. So for $20, you could buy from USA Prepares a colloidal silver generator. No kidding, $20. An LED emergency lighting system running on a car battery or a truck battery. $20. Of course, you'd have to provide the battery, but the rest of it you'd get from us, except for the wiring to go from the battery to the LED lighting system. 15 feet of LED lights. It would run about a month if you used it a few hours a day. That one battery would last a month on a charge. Then we had another project, a battery desulfator that could let your lead-acid automotive and truck batteries last twice as long or more. And we had 2 more projects. After months of trying to decide and having a little online click to indicate your preference as to which one we should start with, we only had about 100 people saying that they wanted to do all of them, meaning 20 for the desulfator, 20 for LED lighting, 20 for each of them. And there were so few people that wanted to do each project that we had to abandon that. It was not productive. We couldn't pull it off because of so little interest. Can you imagine that? And the meetups, the hours and hours I would spend, almost a day per week, preparing for the meetups, to travel to Springfield, to travel from Springfield, the hours of preparation, and then the 3 and 4 hours there. Turned out to be, a full day every week just to do the meetup. And of course, we were thrown overboard. I couldn't get the meetup people to stop bringing their cell phones into the meetup restaurant. Couldn't get them to do it. I could not get them to do it. Asking them for over a month, posting signs on the door, it still didn't sink in. So the latest project was spurred on, and by the way, all these projects were spurred on by instructors and students asking me to do this. I did. And they've been complete failures. The latest one, which I pulled the plug on this morning, the 200-acre property that we could turn into a village. Now, what we were going to do is, my plan was to take 200 acres. Half of it would be for individuals to buy at 1 acre apiece, or so. If they wanted a little more, that'd be fine too. But it would be about $1,200 an acre. They could have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 of the 100 acres that would be available for individuals at $1,200 an acre or so. And they could put a container on it and make a home out of a container. They could build a cabin on it. They could do whatever they want within reason. Except there'd be some rules. And the rules are kind of simple. No cell phones. No smartphones. And the village would be people who had skills. If you wanted to be a member of, we'll call it a club, because we don't have to let anybody in. This is ours, right? And you would own your own property. This wasn't like rent property. You would own it. And then the other 100 acres of the 200 acres would be used for the common areas of the village. Gardening, the shop, the mechanic shop, the workshop, agriculture, animals, things like that. Teaching, the village center for the house of worship, when it's not used for other things, and meetings and get-togethers, teaching. That's what the plan was. Well, I pulled the plug on it because of detractors and lack of interest. So let me share with you what I'm talking about. When I talk about the GDP, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So the Ron Gibson channel on YouTube is a channel that hosts Mike Rivero. His broadcast is What Really Happened. It's 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. I've spoken with Mike Rivero. He's a USA Prepares instructor. He hails from Republic Broadcasting Network. He's on in the afternoons. And we're on it. So there used to be Alex Jones, Mike Rivero, and USA Prepares. Ron Gibson, a gentleman who lives in North Carolina, decided that he liked those three broadcasts. And he put them on his channel. He built a channel, and he has 27,400 subscribers. 27,400 subscribers to his channel, of which Mike Rivero is number one on the channel now. It used to be Alex Jones number one, Mike Rivero number two, and USA Prepares number three. Well, currently it's Mike Rivero's number one and USA Prepares is number two. Mike Rivero talks about the news and his take on the news. We don't do that so much. We talk about what is happening, what you need to know about it, and what you need to do about it. We're not just a news digester. Right? We actually talk about preparedness. Now, I'm not saying anything negative about Mike Rivero. He does a great job. But what I am saying is there's a difference between us and everybody else. We do not just talk about the news. We don't talk about politics too much. So here are some of the comments from people who every day these guys listen to USA Prepares on the Ron Gibson channel. And Ron Gibson strips out the commercials so you can listen faster because you don't, but then YouTube puts in their own commercials. So here we go. There's a detractor by the name of Keith with the last letter D. Keith D. And this is yesterday. Let's get this straight. I buy a piece of land from Vince and have to prove I have enough skills to qualify for membership in his cult. No cell phones, no Wi-Fi, no laptops with webcams. How about smart TVs? King Vince has to okay anything you bring into your home. What if you own a car with an OnStar type system? Have to ask Vince? What a joke. He's disappointed that he has no takers. Good luck, King Veto Power. Lots of laughs. That's from Keith D. Here's another one from another detractor called 408 or 408 Magenta. I use a cell phone to speak to my beloved daughter in London, England. I would be deprived of a cell phone? ? For what reason? Insane. I like the idea of a community of people helping each other or being assured that the help they would need would be readily available. But if the entry requirement is of a gated community, limits my freedom, forget it. My comments about those two detractors is that they're assuming that the people in the village would want to have smart devices. They're assuming that the people in the village would want to have webcams and smartphones that could surveil them at any point in time and audio record them at any point in time. Or that having no limits on freedom is a good thing. Now think about that. So I'm talking about the GDP, and I'm giving you some examples of the GDP. They'll say, hey, boy, I really missed the Expo. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm just talking about most people. Really missed the Expo. Boy, it was really great. Literally, class, it was the largest preparedness expo this country has ever seen, and it was by far the best. And we've had competitors come to our expo, and what they've done is they wear their cell phones right at their belt buckle. We know who they are. And they would come in, barge in, demand free admission, and then go from exhibitor to exhibitor to exhibitor and video the whole thing so they could take all of our hard work, steal it, and then bring those exhibitors to their expo, where they charged 3, 4, 5 times more than we did for everything, meaning the exhibit space and so forth. Well, let me continue on with why I have given up on expos and meetups and things like that. So here's another post from 408 Magenta. This was yesterday as well. Non-stop failures basically implies that your formula is not correct. It's akin to bashing your head on reinforced concrete and expecting a different outcome other than a bruised head. Besides, I've heard it all ad nauseum. All right? Here's another one from that same Keith D. guy or gal, or whatever gender he may or she may or it may be. Keith D., let's get this straight. I buy a piece of land from Vince and have to prove I have enough skills to qualify for membership in his cult. No cell phones, no Wi-Fi, no laptops with webcams. How about smart TVs? King Vince has to okay everything you bring into your home. What if you own a car with an OnStar type system? Have to ask Vince? ? What a joke. He's disappointed that he has no takers. Good luck, King Veto Power. Lots of laughs. So who are these characters? Keith D. has 2 subscribers on YouTube. 2. TWO. 2. 408 Magenta. 0 subscribers. The Ron Gibson channel, where our audio is uploaded every day for anyone who wants to listen to it, 27,400 subscribers. What I'm trying to tell you is people like this are the reason, and the meetup people who beat us up. I mean, think about it. We've never charged anything for the meetup. Anybody who wanted to come to our expo, I've said on the air many, many times, probably over 100 times. If you need a scholarship, for whatever reason, all you have to do is come to the front desk at the expo and say, may I have a scholarship? No questions asked. You get one. If you're a public school teacher, principal, superintendent, you can come for free. And so can your spouse. And so can your children. Because the reason I did that, I wanted to see if they would show up. Not one. And the reason I said, and your spouse, is so that they wouldn't say, oh, I know what you're trying to do, Finelli. What you're trying to do is get me to come for free, and then I have to have my children pay, and my husband or wife pay. I know what you're trying to do. Nope. They all would come for free. But not one of them, not one came to the expo. Only homeschool teachers, which means parents. That's all. Now, why is that? That's because teachers in the public training camp are mercenaries. If you don't pay them, they won't show up. They're the same people who complain that they're overworked. Overworked! I remember telling a kindergarten teacher, yeah, the toughest thing that you have to worry about is a child wetting his or her pants. That's the toughest thing you have to worry about. Everything else is easy for you. Brian in California, please stay with us, and you're up next, right after the commercial announcements. Looks like it's just me today, and I've been talking about the meetups, the expo, the village, the projects, the latest village, and Brian in California, welcome. You're on with me, Vin Finelli. I can.
Can you hear me? How you doing?
Yes, I can. Yeah, good.
Yeah, no, I listen to your show all the time. You just talk about a lot of things I'm interested in, but as far as what you're talking about today, my big thing is, you're talking about building a little neighborhood there, and I live off-grid on 2.5 acres, and I got at least 2.5 acres between me and every neighbor. And the last thing I want to do is buy an acre and have to live next door to some kook on the next acre.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that's what I didn't flesh out all the rules of this particular village, but I can assure you, I don't want this to become a homosexual retreat. I don't want this to become a pink hair, blue hair, green hair retreat. I don't want people who are weak of character, without skills, and who are huge, crazy risk takers to be here. We don't need that. And here's the situation, Brian. So let's say we have 200 acres, and 200 acres is roughly a third of a mile by a third of a mile. And we have four corners. And on those four corners, we say, look, the world has gone crazy. The grid is down, lights out. It's been like this for weeks. And we know that people want what we have worked so hard to build for ourselves. We didn't build it for them. They could have built it for themselves, but they were busy going to the St. Louis Cardinals games and Disney and restaurants and wasting their money and not paying attention. But we sacrificed to build this village. And we worked hard, and we're raising food, and we only have enough for us. And they want to come and get it. So what we do is we say, all right, so we've got four corners of the property, and we assign, and let's say there's 100 of us, and we assign, and when I say we assign, okay? The group figures out, but there'll be some leaders, because there'll be some people who are just not good at leadership, but there'll be an organization, a roster of who does the gardening, who does the dishes, who does the cooking, who does the meat preparation, who does the butchering, who does the planting, and everybody gets to do everything. But let's say we pick four people to be on the lookout in the corners of the property. What is the likelihood that those four people are going to actually pay attention and protect everybody inside the village and not let the marauders in? What's the possibility? So that's why we need people to be paying attention. No looking down on cell phones. No texting. If there were such a thing, up and running. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. We want to make sure that we are on task.
Yeah.
And
well,
I've talked to people.
My little cell phone, the flip phone that the only reason I have it is we can't get a landline where I live. But and my other big question is part of the reason I live like I do off grid, and my grid's not going down, but it's because I don't want to be a part of somebody's society. But I do have to move in the next 2 years to get out of California. So
yeah, I would think so. I would think so. I have lived in California back in 1980. I survived 18 months. And when I was flying out to California back then, I don't fly anymore, and I haven't for years. Years.
Yeah,
I was sitting next to this gal. That's the way the seats were assigned. I didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was. She was a little older than I. And we were flying from the East Coast to California, and she asked me what I was doing. And I said, I'm going to California. And she said, so what are you going to do there? And I said, well, we're starting up a company, and we're going to manufacture satellite communications equipment. And so she said, well, since you want to be an entrepreneur, let me ask you this question. And here's the question. Would you rather die leaving a lot of money, or would you rather die owing a lot of money? And, of course, the answer is I'd rather not die right now, but the answer is leaving a lot of money. Okay. And how would you answer that question, Brian?
well, I'm leaving skills. I got my two boys live with us, and they pretty much do most of the work on the farm because I'm working on the...
Yeah, but no, that's not the question. The question is, would you rather, if you started a company, would you rather die leaving a lot of money, or would you rather die owing a lot of money?
No, leaving a lot of money, obviously.
Okay, that's the same way I answered it, okay? And she said she was aghast, absolutely aghast at my ignorance.
Right,
and she said, no.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to borrow lots of money, owe lots of people money, and then when you die, tough. They all get stuck with not getting paid back. That's what she was talking about. Okay, that is the California mentality. So even before I landed in San Jose, on that flight, I learned that that's how it is in California. And also in California, I noticed that Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, you go to a restaurant. Why? Because people aren't related to many people in California because they're all running from something. Well, not all, but many are running from something. And so they go to California to get away from whatever's chasing them. And then also, so that means that the family's not there. It's just them going to a restaurant. Can you imagine going to a restaurant for Christmas? I can't imagine that. See, Christmas to me is family. Thanksgiving to me is family. It's Thanksgiving. And Easter to me is family. Okay? That's what it is. Well, in California, it's different. And another thing that happened to me is I had an old Porsche, a 914, a very inexpensive Porsche. It was like $2,000. And a guy said to me, wow, what kind of locks do you have on those wheels? I said, locks on my wheels. He said, yeah, so, your wheels and tires don't get stolen. What kind of locks? I said, I don't have any. That's what California is like. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Yep. I got a car with new rims on it, and everyone that's got some weird lug nuts on there that I got to go buy a special tool to get them off with.
Right.
I wanted to be there when I come back.
Those are wheel locks. Yeah. And that's really what it's like. But, here in our neck of the woods in Missouri, it's not like that. So, Brian, you may want to consider Missouri. It's in some places of Missouri, it's a low cost of living area. So you could now get ready for this. You could buy a farm with, let's say, 80 acres, okay, and pay less than $200 a year taxes.
Okay, well, what I did here is we moved out to the desert, and for $7,500, I bought 2.5 acres with a rundown house on it, and I rebuilt the house, and yeah, that's what we got going. I got livestock and goats anyway.
Now, is the government corporation helping you by saying, hey, we really appreciate you raising those animals, and now we're going to tax you X dollars per head per year, and by the way, your farm equipment, we got to tax you X dollars per year, personal property tax, and we want to make sure you have those animals registered with us? Do they do that and help you?
No, but it's what they're doing here right now is they're pretty much cutting it to where you can't have livestock. You can't buy any animals. The feed store they used to have, chickens and goats and all kinds of stuff. And this year they can't carry any of them because of the bird, the Newcastle thing. So they've pretty much eliminated chickens. You can't even have them in California right now.
Huh. So when the governor wants to have an omelet, or the state legislature decides that they're going to have a feast at the public expense, and it's a breakfast feast, are they going to import those eggs from, Missouri?
Yeah. Okay, what they've said is that you can't buy or sell. So if you have them, it's okay. But they're trying to quarantine everybody. So, yeah.
I got to tell you, Brian, if you've ever had chickens, they have a maximum life expectancy of about 4 years. Yep. So if you don't have a rooster and some hens, eventually in 4 years, there will be no more chickens.
Yeah, I prefer ducks, but I have a couple of chickens. But we've been hatching our own ducks for a couple of years.
Brian, so I take it you didn't always live this way. I take it you did live on the grid at some point. Can you describe for our class what it's like to be responsible for your own actions? Meaning, if your battery bank went down, or it's not sunny out, or your array is covered with, it could be snow in your area, or maybe not, depending on what part of California, you're responsible for your own actions. What is that like compared to having a job and just going to work?
Honestly, it's just way less headache. Honestly, my batteries, my inverter went out last year, and so I took the day off, and I had to go 6 stores to get a new one, but it's done, and it's paid for. I don't owe anybody any money for it. And we started with the solar. I got the wrong kind of batteries, but we stretched that for a year, and when it was up, I went and bought some new ones, and they seem to be working a lot better. Like you always say, you make your own mistakes, and but once it's fixed, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You know?
It's interesting. It's interesting that you remembered that phrase, and that phrase is attributed to us here at USA Prepares. And what I meant by that was, why buy someone else's old house that's full of mistakes? Make your own mistakes. Build your own house. But I got to tell you, I have never met a single individual yet, person to person. I mean, I've never looked them in the eyes who said, you know what, I built my own house. I mean,
I almost say that because we took the one we have was, I mean, it's been sitting there for 20 years vacant. So I shipped it all the way down. It's already permitted. Had to have the permit. And just rebuilt what I had. Took a week off to roof it. And that's good for me.
Okay. So you have skills. Now, if you re-roofed it, that's impressive. I mean, that's hard, heavy, hot
Hold
work.
on a minute. Then we put a metal roof on it. So that was in my skill level.
That's still, I got to tell you, it's metalworking, and if you're talking about sheet metal, it's a really dangerous, dangerous project. Yeah, I mean, you can slice off your hands, your fingers. You can die working with metal. It's one of the most dangerous occupations you can have. So
yeah, but we've done 3 winters here and don't have any leaks. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. So if you ever have to fix it, can you fix it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I did it the first time, so I wouldn't have to fix it.
So you use screws with neoprene washers rather than nails?
Right. Mm-hmm. A whole bunch of them.
Yeah, probably thousands. Yeah, that's what we did. We did the same thing. We built a barn. What we literally did was we bought a used, I mean, think about this, class. We bought a used barn. The barn was about 350 to 400 feet long. It was in Arkansas. And it was a chicken barn, and it was a very low barn, and it had metal trusses, and it had metal roofing, and curtain sides. And what we did was we bought the roofing, the purlins, the trusses, and then we built our own short walls, and then raised the whole barn and used everything everything.
Yeah.
Except the new short walls out of concrete.
Scrap wood on my property. I built just about everything out of that I could because we didn't have any money right then, so.
Do you want to hold through the break?
I have to get off here, Vince. I have a job right now,
okay.
So.
Great. Hey, thanks for sharing with us. This broadcast was supposed to be with Gwyneth Isaacs, but we're having trouble connecting with her. So I'm just doing something I have never done before, and that is a solo monologue. And so I'm going to continue to bash the GDP and the trolls and the detractors, and I'm proving to you who they are and what they're like. So I can assure you that Keith D and 408 Magenta, or anyone like that, is not welcome on our farm and is not welcome in the village that I would have helped build. Okay? They would not be welcome. And of course, no one with blue hair, green hair, pink hair, and no homos. Because I don't want, homos to me are risk takers. They are not in it for the long run. There is no long run for them. There is no continued bloodline for them. Because they're homos. It can't be that they could have children. They're homos. They're self-limiting. So what do? They're obviously in it for that pleasure of the moment. I don't want to be too graphic because I might vomit. But as far as the village is concerned, I would want good, honest, hardworking, loyal people there with skills. It's too late. It's too late to teach people who don't know how to do anything how to do things. It's too late. If their health is if they've let their health go, I don't know if we have time to fix that. And as far as me making rules, absolutely. I said it on the air. There's no hidden agenda. If I'm bringing a backhoe and tractors and trailers and a hay baler or two, hay mowing equipment, hay rakes, road grading equipment, generators, and the knowledge and skills to make all this work and be willing to teach people, Of course there would be rules. There's no way I'm going to waste the remaining time I have on the planet with the GDP. I'm not going to do it. I want to tell you a little bit about an experience with Craigslist. So here's the story. This is someone I know. So someone I know was helping someone else I know sell a car or a vehicle on Craigslist. And he puts the vehicle on Craigslist, complete description. Here's the vehicle, the miles, all kinds of pictures, inside, outside, front, back, sides, engine, lots of pictures. Description saying, here's what the seller knows about it, here's what works, and here's what you need to work on. And then texts come in. Best offer, question mark. No conversation about, hello, I'm interested in buying your vehicle. Can you tell me about such and such? No. I think it would be a millennial who would be behind the keyboard of a smartphone saying best offer, question mark. The guy helping sell the vehicle was doing it as a favor. He wasn't doing it for any money. He was just doing it as a favor for a friend. Just ignored it. Another text comes in. Runs? Question mark. I guess that means, does it run? Now, obviously, the person didn't read the description. I guess that's too hard. I guess it's too hard to make a phone call and say, hello, I'm interested. Can you tell me about the condition? Is your price firm? Another one comes in. Location? Question mark. So the person helping sell this vehicle on Craigslist ignored all that. And then what happened was a call came in. The guy said he was interested. The two of them discussed it, the buyer and the prospective buyer and the seller. They discussed it. They decided that there was enough information in that phone call. The man who wanted to buy it said, I'll be there. I'm coming. He rented a truck. He rented a trailer and drove 2 hours each way and picked it up. And it worked. It was really simple. But how difficult do you think it would be working with someone who just sends you a 2-word and a question mark text? Best offer. Runs? Question mark. Or location? Question mark. And they don't have the knowledge, the desire, or the interest in reading the whole advertisement on Craigslist. This is where we are. This is just one small, tiny speck of the GDP. This is what's happening right now. When we come back, I'm going to read you a series of emails that came into me. The original one was from me, requesting that this person, this author, consider being on the air with me, talking about his subject matter. You won't believe this email. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. David, I'll be with you in just a second. I just wanted to say that why is it that at the meetups, hardly anybody, only 3 people at the meetup where they voted to throw out Norm Shealy and me. Why is it that only 3 people voted to keep us? Why? I was the guy who started the meetup. And when I was no longer there, the meetup fell apart. No one was able to put it back together. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the greatest, but I'm telling you that no one else was able to keep it running. They couldn't do it. And yet they threw me out. That's okay, and I'm really glad they did, because I have learned so many valuable lessons. And this is why you hear me say that I'm not willing to help most people anymore. I'm not willing to do it, because I'm describing to you what most people are like. They are willing to throw overboard people who have helped them. Loyalty is almost vanished. I wanted to mention, now, and I want to talk about loyalty for just a second. So why is it that the students and the instructors don't pile on and beat up verbally with the written word these detractors on the Ron Gibson channel? Why don't they just pummel these guys? And I'm talking about 408 Magenta. Why aren't they being pummeled? Why isn't the other guy being pummeled? You know, Keith D. Why? Well, so that tells me that why should I? Why should I continue doing this if I'm standing alone? And when I was in Virginia, and I fought, and I was the point of the spear, the tip of the spear to stop the second largest trash company in the United States from building a mountain of trash on top of an aquifer in the county where we lived. I was the point person. And when it was all over, we won, but I was standing all by myself. My neighbors had disappeared. My neighbors disappeared from the fight. They had as much to lose as we all did, but they were gone. Now, in the beginning of the fight, we're all in this together. We're behind you, Vin, 110%, whatever that means, that idiotic phrase. But when it was all over, my health was really damaged. The fight was long and it was hard. Shots were fired at our house. And that's why I carry a gun today. That's why we all do. That's the genesis of the Finellis carrying guns. Because we were shot at, attacked, over a dump. And then the other fight was putting a prison in our little tiny hamlet of 500 people in an abandoned Shaw rug or carpet factory. We're going to put a prison in there. And we opposed it. And that was another fight. And we're with you. We're behind you. 110%. And when that was all over, I was the only guy standing. And we beat them too. And I don't normally use this terminology, but when I left Virginia, my farewell message was, screw you all. You're on your own now. Vin Finelli's no longer fighting for you. Have a nice day. I want to thank Steve Elkins. He thought that it might be nice for me to have a wingman today. So during the previous commercial break, he called the farmhouse and chatted with Mrs. Finelli and asked her if I wanted a wingman. And I got the message to her that I appreciate it, but I'm going to do 2 hours by myself. I've never done it before. 8 years of broadcasting, I've never done 2 hours of monologue. Not prepared for it. What's that like? I think we should all stretch. I think we should all learn new things, new skills. So this is a new one for me, and you're hearing it live. No safety net. First time. You don't hear me begging for calls. You don't hear me saying, hey, I'm all alone here. Y'all, can you help me? So this is what it's going to be like. And it's just one tiny example. You might have to figure out what to do on your own right then and there live. You might have to do that. And that's what I'm doing right now. David, in Illinois, welcome. You're on with me, Vin Finelli.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Let it out, man. Let it out. I've been there. I've seen it. Racked my brain. I still am shocked about the whole meetup thing. I didn't start listening to your show, and towards the end of that, I would have loved to have been to some of them. But I would like to say, ask, have all them that that voted against you came back at a later time and act like nothing never happened and ask you for help or your opinion or an idea to help fix the situation?
No, they haven't. I think that they are embarrassed. There's one guy, he trades by the name of P. Freely, as in urinate freely. That's what, I mean, I don't know what that means, but that's what this guy, he's one of the meetup guys. And he used to send me emails, and he would say, I'm paraphrasing, so I'm not quoting him exactly, but this is the intent. During the broadcast, he would send me an email saying, I started talking about tractors, so I turned off in 10 seconds. Other people say, I love it when you talk about equipment because I learned things I've never heard before. But this guy, so here's what's happening. There are those who want this to be just like all the other broadcasts where we talk about what's in the news. Well, some things in the news are certainly worth talking about, but that's not what we do. That's not our primary mission. Our primary mission is to teach. And what we want to teach is things that most people don't know about. So they can go to Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity or Michael Medved or Michael Weiner, also known as Michael Savage, and go to those broadcasts and they can hear the same thing over and over and over again. I don't want to do that. That's not what we do. What we do is something more akin to what Art Bell used to do when he was alive. And I believe he was the greatest broadcaster ever, Art Bell. And if we could just be a little bit of what Art Bell did, I'd be really excited. So the format of what USA Prepares is long discussion, complete discussion, not rapid fire. I was told by a radio station, top management, hey, Vinny, hamburgers. If you just talk about who's got the best hamburgers in Springfield, Missouri, now that's good radio. To me, that's nonsense. So I've never done that, and of course they threw me off the air for not following directions. But as far as the meetup, no. The people who were at the meetup, I have not seen them. I don't want to see them. I just can't believe the lack of loyalty. You know, these are the same people that, here's what would happen. We would have, 100 people at the meetups. A lot of the times, 100 people. Now think about that. That's a pretty big crowd in a restaurant, 100 people. And we would take over the restaurants. And when we had the Expo was coming, the word on the street was, hey, if you go to the meetups, you'll get free tickets. So for the month before the Expos, the crowd would swell for free tickets. Now, how much are these tickets? Well, at one time, they were $4 a day, $8 for the weekend. They increased at one point to, I think, maybe $14 for 2 days. And we did things like I've got a coffee mug in front of me. It says it's black. It's really, really nice. It says USA Prepares in white with our logo. On the other side, it says GCN, Genesis Communications Network. So it's really, really cool. And I sold them, we sold them for $8. Now, coffee mugs like that sell for $15. But what we did was we said, we don't want to sell you a coffee mug. Well, if you want coffee, you can get coffee for the entire weekend. Unlimited refills. It's $8 and you get the mug. So mug and a weekend of coffee for $8. Because we did not want to rip anybody else off. Not only that, what happens at these convention facilities, they make a lot of money. I didn't realize how much money they made, but they make a lot of money selling popcorn for $4 a bag, sodas for $3.50, little plates of snacks with like Doritos with cheese sauce on them for $4. In order to stop them from showing up and ripping our customers off, I had to pay them to not show up. And when it was all over, the city county facility beat me up because I wouldn't let them rip off our customers. I wouldn't let them sell the sodas for $3.50. I bought a soda machine. I bought my own soda machine used. And we put it on a truck, and this thing weighs 400 or 500 pounds. It's really heavy. That's why you don't see soda machines being stolen, because they're too heavy. And we put it on our truck, and I brought it to the meetup, and we programmed it for 75 cents. And we filled it up with name brand sodas for 75 cents instead of $3, because I needed to amortize the cost of the machine. That's what we did. And nobody knows that. Now you do. So these are the same people that wanted the free tickets, and they would help me out by accepting free tickets. Yeah, I can help you out. I can show up. Give me a free ticket now. I'll try to come. Really? So I don't want that anymore. I don't need that anymore. One guy said, hey, he was at the meetup for years, and he was like a meetup type instructor, and he was going to help me with welding my bulldozer, our bulldozer. He's never shown up. Every once in a while I hear from him. Yeah. I'm going to come out. It's been like 3 years. I have no interest in waiting for anybody like that. I have no interest in helping anybody like that. I will not, because these people have held me up. These are the same kind of people that say, I may stop by, Saturday or Sunday. I don't know which, and then I wait for them, and I put my plans on hold, my family's on hold so that we could be there if they show up, and they don't show up. And it happens over and over again. No more. We are and I mentioned this, we are at the point where someone says, I may show up, and let's say it's a friend. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't expect them to show up. I don't expect it. So I don't wait. And if I leave the farm, I lock the gate. I'd love to hear more about what you've got to say. I think you want to talk about Craigslist. So, yeah. David, please stay with us. So this is my rant. I'm just telling everybody what the GDP is really like. First-hand experience. These people outnumber us. And the problem is there's so many of these dumb bunnies. So again, class, I just want to thank Steve Elkins. He called the farmhouse to ask if I needed a wingman because he knew that Gwyneth was unable to connect today. So I know for a fact, and I appreciate that, Steve, I really do. But I wanted to try something that I've never done before, and that's do a 2-hour monologue or go solo with calls. But I know for a fact that if I were in trouble, I know that, David, Joey, George, Margaret, Rich, and so many others would just call in Kyle. I know that. And I really appreciate that. So I just want all of you to know that I know that you would come to my assistance. But there are so many whom I know in person who would not help me. And so I've never met David. I've never met George. I've never met Margaret. I've never met Kyle. Some of my best friends are people I've never met. And I think they know they can count on me and I can count on them, but that's rare. It's really rare that you can count on somebody today. David, you want to talk about Craigslist, or did you want to comment on something I've just said? Yeah, and I have a couple other things I'll tell you about, but you brought up about somebody building homes, but if you wish to hear about that later, I will tell you. But now, I've been through the same similar thing with you. When I was there at state and younger, people would come to me to help argue their points and fight for what they needed accomplished, and they knew I would give them that all, and I would go in baring teeth. But then when it came to somebody standing there, I'd be standing there by myself. But those same people, some of them had the nerve to call me later on and ask me for help after they stabbed me in the back when it all happened. So one guy told me a long time ago, I'll have to learn for myself what people are like, and that's when I did. And I said, they asked me for help. I said, sure, hold on a minute. And I hung up the phone. Done. I learned my lesson. To find honest, decent people to stand next to you, it's very hard today. They're weak. They're afraid. They're a bunch of pansies. And that's why, and by the way, the village is over. I'm not doing it. I've been convinced by our detractors that I must be out of my mind. And I really appreciate their efforts in beating me up day after day after day. I really appreciate them doing it. And I'm not kidding. this is a sincere thank you, because they've shown me that I must be out of my mind to want to even try. So the Village project is over. Thank you to 408 Magenta, and our Keith D. detractors. They have almost single-handedly, and I don't even know, maybe they are the same, but they have so few followers. Nobody wants to follow them, but they've shown me that I'm wasting my time. I really appreciate that. Dave, you want to talk about Craigslist?
Yeah, I thought it was just me being kind of, too demanding about Craigslist. I put things on Craigslist years ago. Not so much. I tried something recently, within the last year, and I will not sell or buy anything unless I can talk to somebody on the phone. I will not deal with these stupid little lines on. I'm like, no, I won't do no transaction unless I can talk to you on the phone. And the last time I put something, and these people, you give them something decent, and they still want more. I had extra inverters here, and we would like to move and get out of here. So I figured, okay, these are brand new in the box. I'm going to sell one on Craigslist. $2,000. Guy said, look, I can get one off eBay. eBay or Amazon for $80. I'll give you $45. I told the guy, I said, look, one guy called. I said, I will tear it apart and turn around there and melt that thing down and sell it for scrap before no. And it's
I've got a comment about that. I want to put an exclamation point on what you just said. And years ago, if you and I were having this discussion, I'd say, come on, David, that's crazy. David, I agree with you. And I don't have enough time before the break, but when we come back, I want to share a very short story about someone who did almost the same thing. And I applaud him for doing it. And when you hear what, you're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this. But I'm in agreement with this person. It'll take a couple minutes to tell the story. We'll be right back. Stay.
Wouldn't you know it? The internet went down, completely down, just toward the end of that commercial break at the bottom of the hour. So I'm broadcasting via a telephone. David in Illinois is with us. So, David, here's the story I wanted to tell you. I have a friend. He's a senior, and he's been a farmer for a very, very long time. He's a brilliant inventor. He's just given up on the farming business. I guess he's had it with farming, and he's had it with people. And so what he did was he took a very large tractor that he used with his hay mower. And, of course, the way a hay mower works is a hay mower usually is attached to the back of the tractor with the hydraulics to lift it up and down. And the mower may be 8 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet long. So you can cut hay with these really high-spinning blades. And when they cut the hay just falls down. It doesn't scatter it. It just falls down. One complete piece of grass rather than being chopped up. And so he had a hay mower on the back, just the way we do. We have a hay mower on the back of our tractor. But he decided that he was all alone and he would have more time if he could put a mower on the front of his tractor. So the way these hay mowers work is a 9-foot mower requires about 100 horsepower. And there's a drive shaft that turns the blades, and there's a hydraulic system that lifts up the mower. So you need hydraulics and a drive shaft, called the PTO, power takeoff shaft. Well, he fabricated a system that would allow him to use hydraulics. He'd split the hydraulics so he could put a hay mower on the front and raise it up and down. And he got a drive shaft to go from the back of the tractor to the front. He made all this. So he had a hay mower on the right-hand side of the rear of the tractor and another hay mower on the left-hand side of the front of the tractor. So he would have 9 feet plus 9 feet, 18 feet wide, independently articulating mowers. It was absolutely brilliant. But when he decided to go out of business, he decided to sell everything and just walk away from farming. And it was very sad. I used to buy hay from him. And when he did that, he decided he had it with other people taking advantage of him. So he literally took his cutting torch and cut it all up. He wasn't going to let anybody have his brilliant, unprecedented, magnificent design. Nobody was going to get it. Not only that, we have a tractor with a front-end loader. And so we pick up these 1,000-pound bales of hay with the front-end loader, and we have a spear. And we just drive that spear into the center of the bale of hay, and we pick it up, and we can put it on a trailer. We can stack it in the barn. We can bring it around the farm, and we have another spear on the back. So we can back into a bale and raise that up, drive away with it, grab another bale with the front-end loader. With the front-end loader and another spear, and we can pick up two. Not him. He fabricated a spear on the back with two spears. So he could back into one bale and then back into another bale and have two bales on the back. And then instead of having one bale on the front of the front-end loader, he had two spears. And he could pick up two bales at the same time. And then when he loaded them on a trailer, he could load two bales side by side, touching each other, and save probably 3 times the amount of time. That's what he did. But he cut it up. And I thought, and my initial reaction was, I can't believe it. I would have loved to have bought that. But he didn't think of me. He was thinking of all the other people. And he decided nobody was going to get his hard work. And that's the way I feel. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people coming and copying our expo. They think they have the right to steal all of our hard work to find the exhibitors, the speakers. That's what they do. There's a gun show that's called every one of our exhibitors. Who do they think they are? That's what people do today. And they are the successful ones. I don't know why, but they are. David?
Yeah, well, at least you made me feel a little better, because I thought I was being too extreme when I told my wife that something happens to me, so nobody takes anything else from us again. You know, I got a sled, my guns, you cut them up, solar panels, you take the hammer to them. So I'd rather her throw this stuff away instead of somebody coming to our families or somebody taking it from us, even after I'm gone. And so she's not left with nothing. She could either just sell it for scrap metal. I don't care. But even if I'm gone, I don't want to see her taken from just because I'm not there. And I'm sorry, that's just the way I become. From what I've seen and what have been done, I just, and I would like to say something real quick. I didn't mean to say this, but you talked about people taken from your show. You mentioned this before. That last time I was on your show, I would have wrote this to you. But the very next week we seen on the news, and we saved the YouTube clips from the news channels, 3 specific topics we talked about on your show. and it was from the Missouri area. And I'm like, what's the coincidence? 3 days in a row, what we talked about, they split it up. And I'm like, so he must be right.
Rich Sheben says it. Joey says it. Other instructors say it. We talk about it, and then a couple days later, it'll be on the big microphones. They'll be saying what we said, or we'll be talking about it, and then it'll end up the next day or a couple days later on the internet as a first to appear article. But we've already talked about it. Yeah. And I believe, I really, and this, I'm not patting us on the back, but I really believe that we originate a lot of this information, and yet it's copied, and then at the same time we're beat up by these low-life, degenerate detractors. Go ahead.
Some of these things that we seen were too specific to be just a coincidence. So
you're right, and not only that, I'll talk on the phone with someone about something that I haven't mentioned, something that I have not mentioned it on here, and I have not done done searching on a search engine about it. Just talk about it on the phone. The next thing I know, I'm barraged with ads about that thing that we talked about, that I hadn't talked about for 6 months. All of a sudden, I now see ads all over for what I talked about on the phone with somebody. We'll call him an instructor. We'll call him a friend. That's unbelievable. It's not a coincidence. It is deliberate. Our phone calls are being listened to. Our broadcasts are being listened to, recorded. And I believe that and I don't want to mention any names, but you know those major league broadcasters that everybody recognizes the name of, I believe they have staff that listen to us so that they know what they could talk about in the next couple of days once they learn about it and maybe do some research.
Mm-hmm. No. So, but now this kind of stuff like you've been dealing with people taking advantage of it. There's engineers that I worked with as a student, and they knew my history, but they didn't bring it up. But they introduced me to farmers and showed me. And this one engineer built 3 homes. By the time he built his 3rd home, he dealt with all the mistakes he made. He was almost all self-sufficient except for electricity. Now, they didn't have the solar panels out back then. But he had everything like you did. He had the Cub, the Case tractors and the Cub Cadets, and he showed me everything. He had put 2 wells in instead of 1. So when the drought came, he was the only one that had water. But since he started the community, he had the tractor. Everybody in his community that they started thought he was responsible. He said not only did they expect to use his tractor, his backhoe, and with the bucket they use it for snow removal, they expected him to gas it up. And I said, well, don't that get you mad? And they bring it back empty. He goes, not anymore. I just tell them there's no gas. He said, I just don't care. I don't talk to them. They hate me here. Because he wouldn't so he went and they had to go have his permission to put water pipes through the property. He said, they wanted me to pay $1,800. I got 2 wells. Tried to tell them I didn't run out of water. And me and him put the piping underground from his gutters. They thought he was nuts. To his wells, and he put caps in there, so when it filled up, they thought he was nuts. He was the only one that didn't run out of water, But then they wanted him. They wanted his, and he just said, I don't care. Don't talk to them. You're going to meet those people. You're going to have to, he told me, you're going to have to realize they're just going to take advantage of you. You're going to have to learn to walk away.
Yes, Jason, by the way, we're back on the internet. If you want to put me back on, that'd be great. So, Jason, are you there? Great. Thank you very much.
But
okay.
He took me to farm auctions where I met farmers where I could buy 20 dozen of eggs for $1, a bushel of lettuce for $1. And at first I felt bad, and these farmers were like, no, kid, it's okay. This is what I do. And they treated me like a human being. And one thing about that stuff, I'll tell real quick, before we got that stuff home, we would stop at a country auction. That lady was always happy to see us because she would wind up conning some of the stuff off us, before we even got it home. But I met the nicest people, and they weren't rich people. Those farmers were barely making it, but they were glad to get that $1 and to talk to you and tell you stuff.
Yeah, that's what a lot of farmers are like. And we're losing our farms, and the GDP is going to go hungry because I believe the farmers are going to remember what it's been like, how they've been ignored, how they have not been supported in favor of the factory farms. And so I mentioned that we raise the finest beef in the world right here on our farm. No pesticides, herbicides. We don't inject them unless they're sick. We don't do this stuff that most farmers do. We don't use growth hormones. Our beef is grass-fed. They don't get corn. All they get is vitamins, minerals, supplements, and once in a while they might get an antibiotic if they're sick. That's it for the most part. So I mentioned that if Barry and the bandits sent their minion over here and said, hey, we want some of the finest beef in the world, it's not available for Barry and the bandits because they want to steal from us. It's not available. If some of our meetup people said, hey, can I buy half a cow or a cow? No, it's not available to them. I am at that point. The book that I'll probably be talking about on Friday, the book that I've been writing, I don't know if I'm going to even publish it because I don't want the detractors to get it. The website is down because of the detractors. And I appreciate them doing that because I don't have to work on the website anymore. Because they beat us up. They're teaching me so many lessons that I needed to learn about how the GDP operates. Dave, we're going into a break. I want to read an email from between me and an author. I'd love to hear your comments on this when we come back. Les David's with us. He's in Illinois. And I want to read to you an email. And I also want to tell you that I've done something today that I've never done, and that is do 2 hours by myself with some calls. Normally, USA Prepares is with another instructor, and I felt uncomfortable doing a broadcast by myself. No longer do I feel that way. When I was in elementary school, high school, and college, I avoided public speaking at all costs. I avoided computer classes at all costs because I didn't like them. I was terrified of them. Terrified of public speaking. When I went into banking, I ended up teaching myself about computer systems, and I designed some leading-edge systems. Leading edge in the leading industry that uses computer technology, banking. And I taught myself how to broadcast because I thought it was important to wake up the masses. The masses have taught me a lot. And today I did something that I've never done before, and that's go without a safety net on the air. What I'm telling you is you can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it. Right? If you want to. So here is an email. Now, why did I send this guy an email? I'm going to tell you his first name. I'm not going to give him any more publicity than he's going to get with by just using his first name. I saw on the internet someone posted a comment and asked me to contact this guy. He's a great guy, allegedly. So I did. I contacted him. And he's an author. He's an eco-warrior. And someone who believes he can save the planet. Now, according to Wikipedia, this guy, and I'm going to quote this from Wikipedia, quote, accordingly, he exhorts readers and audiences to help bring an end to industrial civilization, promoting its dismantling by any means necessary, thus challenging pacifism, since he believes that violence may be justified at times, particularly as a form of self-defense or resistance against oppression. That's what they say on Wikipedia about this guy whose first name is Derek. So he's written this book. And so I wrote to Derek because an email, contacted him through his website, contact information, and I said, Derek, I'm the host of USA Prepares, the radio broadcast on GCNlive.com. Are you interested in a 1-hour call-in radio interview with me? I believe that we're on the same page. May I call you to discuss our radio faculty is the best of the best? Seriously. We'll need your phone number, though. Thank you, Vincent Finelli. That was the first thing I sent to him. I received a response from Derek saying, thank you for your note. Sure, we can talk about it. What would you like to talk about? Thank you, Derek. I responded, Derek, energy is a big concern. We've become used to wasting inexpensive fuels derived from the ground, oil and gas, and there is no substitute. And very few are discussing it. And we will run out if we don't choke first. I live on a farm and have the only transcontinental solar-powered radio broadcast currently in operation. We all need to reduce, reuse, and be way more frugal. That is what we teach 5 days a week, 2 hours per day. If interested, please email your phone number so we can discuss you being on the air for at least 1 hour. No hidden agenda, no costs. We are all volunteers. Thank you, Vincent Finelli. A response from Derek. Dear Vincent, thank you for your note. That sounds fine. I'll be glad to do an interview. Should I bring my friend into the conversation who handles my calendar? Thank you, Derek. I respond, sure, bring your friend. I can call you this weekend or right after today's broadcast. I finish at 11 a.m. Central Time. I will need your phone number. Or you can call me. And I gave him my phone number. And it says landline. My phone was landline. Thank you, Vincent Finelli. I get another email from him. Dear Vincent, thank you for your note. Why do we have to do a pre-interview? Thank you, Derek. My next and final email to Derek. Derek, never mind. This is too complicated. I never put anyone on the air without discussing the broadcast with him or her first. Think of it as due diligence. Thank you, Vincent Finelli. So I threw him overboard. What I'm trying to tell you is this is what it's like. Do you think that I would put someone on as an expert without figuring out if he's really an expert? Do you think that I would trust the time that we have on the radio that will never be able to be replaced with someone that I haven't verified is the real deal? Do you really think that? And this guy just won't cooperate. So I threw him overboard. David, you've got the last part of this minute. Do you have any comments?
Yes. So what I've noticed recently since talking to people, there's people that live it and there's people that make a career out of it.
What do you mean by that?
There's people that make their career out of it by saying they're doing these things, but they don't actually totally live it. They're in it for the income, the face value.
You're absolutely right. And we find that there are people who are promoting carbon-friendly, carbon-neutral, and they are wasting the world's resources with reckless abandon. David, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.